If your end goal is a happy marriage that lasts, we've got the ground rules to help get you there. Today we're sharing 5 rules of resilient relationships because Studio 5 contributor and relationship coach Dr. Matt Townsend believes being resilient is more important than being a perfect match. Now that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Just bouncing back, the ability to bounce back.
Yeah, to be able to bend where you need to bend, to be flexible, to be able to handle the future pressures, the future issues, all of these things that are going to come down the road. And if you could build a resilient relationship, one that stands the test of time, then all of a sudden you can kind of relax. And you don't need to know what's going to happen in the future because you can handle it. So these are the skills, the tools, the rules that build resiliency in a couple.
So when a couple sits down in your office, right, before you've even gotten into the nitty-gritty of their lives or their histories, let's say they have faced a lot of trials or challenges or setbacks that they have bounced back from. Can you tell, though, without even knowing that, in the way they communicate or interact or the vibe you get from that couple?
Oh, yeah. You can tell a lot by just watching how they look at the problem, handle the problem, how they react to the problem. And what's super cool about it is anything that, if you want to be resilient, it's all teachable. You can learn the skill to be more resilient. By the way, these are all the exact same things we should be teaching our kids to be resilient kids, are the things that make resilient relationships. So this isn't like new. This is what creates a sustainable long-term marriage. It's not necessarily finding the right person. It's being able to be resilient with the person you find. And if you can get 2 people working to have a resilient life together that's adaptable and changeable, boom, you're in.
Key number 1, focus on responding, not reacting.
Yeah, a lot of us get so caught up in the reaction to the moment, whatever's happening. Reaction to me is when we make a decision based on our mood, situation, or circumstance.
It's emotional.
If I'm hungry, you're going to pay for it. That's me reacting. Responding is where I actually try to identify how do I want to respond in a situation. There's power to make you more resilient when you recognize your power comes from choice. When I understand that my choices and the choosing that I make in the marriage is what's going to support a long-term relationship, not necessarily what happens to me. So if I have to react constantly to everything that happens to me, that's different than me understanding no matter what happens, I have a choice to make. We call it a choice point. So right now, I need to choose how I want to respond to this situation. How do I want to respond? So if we can teach you that in relationships, you have principles, you have beliefs, you have things you care about, and start responding so you can live that kind of a marriage, that's better than just the constant reactivity between partners.
Why do you think we tend to focus on what's not working in our marriages instead of what is working, kind of a play up the positive effect?
Well, and part of it is that's nature, right? Because we're always playing to not die. It's a weird rule, but if we always play to not die, then the good things in the world don't worry me. It's any potential bad thing that worries me. But in our marriages, there's a lot of weird things. Like, for example, should the person I love ever hurt me? No, we think. They shouldn't hurt me. But the reality is, the people that love us the most are the ones that hurt us the most. And so that's a weird paradox. So instead of arguing whether the person loves you or not, or should people be hurting you, start to understand that that's kind of a concept of life. Should I ask my partner to change or just accept them as they are? So notice that weird paradox. The reality is, yeah, both.
It's a two-sided coin.
You need your partner to pick up their game and get better. That's why they married you. And you need to accept them for who they are and what they can do and can't do. So life is about not necessarily the extremes, which is where we tend to fight in the marriage, and resilient couples actually work on where the 2 things can go together.
You say embracing resiliency, promoting resiliency in your marriage can actually increase your intimacy.
Totally. Now think about it, because, and I'm not even like talking physical intimacy. You have got to be good at being vulnerable. And if you're not vulnerable, you are going to be a less resilient marriage. If you can be vulnerable and you can tell your partner with tears in your eyes where you are a weakling, where you don't know what you're doing, and I can share that with you honestly and deeply, and you as my partner can hold that for me and allow that to be real. If I can be vulnerable and share my fears and my shame and my embarrassment with you, that vulnerability, if you honor it, is what's going to create intimacy.
Well, the word resiliency, you know, promotes a strength, right? A strong point. So what about being vulnerable or being weak? Not weak necessarily, but it feels weak if you're handing over those vulnerabilities. So how does that translate to a strength?
Well, so watch. If I can't be real with you about my weaknesses, then I have to cover them up, and I counterfeit, and our relationship is fake. Because when you threaten my weakness, I get mad at you and yell at you or run away from you instead of sitting there and sharing with you, you know what, I do feel weak in that situation. So think about how much stronger you could be if you could really be you and be vulnerable, and your partner didn't beat you up with your vulnerability. Your partner actually made it safe to be vulnerable, and I made it safe for her. That's gonna make us be able to be bendable in the future instead of fake.
Safety equals strength.
Absolutely.
In the end.
Yeah.
You say if we can say what you mean and mean what you say, that will go a long way in any relationship.
Resilient couples understand that I need to tell you things and you need, and I need to listen to what you're saying. So if my wife wants me to go hang out with the in-laws and spend our entire vacation with the in-laws, I can say, okay, let's do that. Now, some wouldn't even say that. They would just hate it. They'd go quietly and they'd passive-aggressively destroy the entire weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I can say, you know what, I'd like to do that. That seems a little hard for me. And so then I need to be willing to say what I need. And I would love to do it. Let's do it. And I'm going to try to be as happy as I can. And can we just make sure during that time that I have 2 or 3 moments where I can just go be alone, where I can go be what I need to be and take a break? And if we can do that, I think I can easily go give you the weekend with your family.
Bend and take.
But I've got to say it instead of not saying it, not seeming weak. And a lot of times, for example, people won't tell their partner what they need because they don't want to seem weak. And I want you to say what you need. And I want you to say, if you're not going to love this trip, I'd like you to be able to say why you're struggling with it, share where you're vulnerable about it, and ask for what you need.
We talked about how it's not the perfect match that makes, a good relationship. So if a perfect relationship, a perfect couple isn't the goal, where's the bar at?
The bar is probably more about trying to identify how we can learn and grow together. See, one of the best things to be a resilient couple is recognize every situation as a growing opportunity, a chance where we grew. I think long term, none of us expect our partner to be perfect, but we do want to see growth and change and improvement in the relationship. So if you want to have to not fear the future, then let me make sure I saw where your growth is. And people and couples that focus on growing together, they actually identify where their partner's getting better. And if you ask them, they can tell you 5 things that they've gotten better at in the last year. Couples that don't ever focus on growth together, they don't have a clue if their partner's growing. They just know they're still kind of irritating.
I like this a lot.
Cool stuff.
I like this a lot. Thank you so much. We're constantly asked, how can I get more Matt?
How do we do
Matt,
it?
more Matt. He's a popular guy.
It's so simple.
You have a brand new webinar for couples.
Super cool, free webinar, 3 secrets to supercharge your relationship. If you go to matttownsend.com, we'll teach you, it's 1 hour long. And in 1 hour, we'll give you 3 keys to supercharge your relationship. Then you watch it, bring your partner, tell them that we're watching a really cool race video, and then we'll do a little bait and switch on him. But it'll give you some tools to work on immediately, and it's all free.
And you're the race you run?
Yeah, I do. I do a little tube top thing. It's
okay,
really
stop.
Cool.
Now
Super
it's just
cool.
gone over the top. We love you, Matt. Thanks you so
Brooklyn.
much.